Hello, everyone. Welcome to another night of the PTCG Hotline. It's the show with the hottest takes and the hottest topics. Got to mute myself before I echo the stream. Audio issues. It's the classic. We got a really cool guest tonight. There's no lights in my setup. My dad had to use them, so we're vibing out. But we're gonna go ahead and transition to the guest screen, and then go ahead and introduce our guest. We got the one and only Henry Brand. How are you doing tonight, my guy?
Daylight savings has tricked me once again. But we're here with a very exciting guest. He's multi-regional champion, streamer on Twitch, leader of a small army.
Ooh.
Azul, how's it going, man?
I'm doing good, guys. I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
I'm chilling. It's been a long day. Got some excitement in the United States. We're vibing out. It's been a long week, but here on the hotline, glad to have you as well. Thanks for coming on.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. It's a super fun show. Glad I could be a part of it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, so hopefully we get some interesting questions from callers. But before we do want to touch on a couple things. So we have Vivid Voltage coming right around the corner. Has anything caught your eye so far?
There doesn't seem to be too. There's no. The way I've been putting it, there's no Eternatus of the set where like immediately you saw Eternatus, you saw Crobat, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's gonna be good, right? It doesn't feel like we have one of those, but I'm excited for Orbeetle VMAX for sure. It's just really cool. I really like the ability. I've like thought about an ability exactly like that before, and I'd be like, that would just be a cool ability if that was on a Pokemon. You do 10 damage to everything when it's in the active, and now it's finally here. So I'm excited to play with some Orbeetle VMAX.
Yeah.
I know Azul's been hyping up Orbeetle quite a bit. I also really like the card. I have some content on CFB that's going to be coming out later this week that talks about some of my thoughts. But Azul, how are some of the ways you're looking to play it? Do you have any ideas going around? Are you thinking about playing it just as its own thing? Do you have a secondary? Maybe it's just getting splashed into a deck like Pikarom, add some damage. What are your thoughts on that?
I really haven't thought about it too much. I usually don't overthink. I always have so much like stuff to do in the present format that I usually don't overthink or even like come up with lists for stuff from a new set at all. But maybe something with Pokédoll. You go like spread your tens and then retreat to a Pokédoll pass. Something like that is I've thought about. But besides that, I haven't gone too far with it.
Okay, were there other cards in the set that you liked other than Orbeetle?
I like the Jirachi. He's really cool. I don't know how good it will be. Now that I've seen the Manaphy and the Celebi that are coming out next set, I like don't really care about the Jirachi anymore because those I feel like are so much better or have so much more potential.
Mhm.
The ones that search for the Pokemon and the energy. But the amazing rares are cool for sure. They're all very awkward, obviously, to attack with. But we might eventually get some amazing rare support. Who knows, like what kind of stuff we could get for that? Maybe like I don't know, E-gain for amazing rare or something like that. Like who knows what? Maybe something like that. I mean, maybe they'll just be what they are, which makes them pretty awkward. But they're very powerful if you can attack with them. It's just like setting them up and attacking with them is going to definitely be the challenge. So besides those, and Orbeetle, not much. I know a lot of people have been hyping up the Colossal VMAX, and it does seem cool. It'll probably be solid, but I'm not as like and I'm not as like drawn to it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm pretty on board the Colossal. I think it's like decent in terms of Emax goes, but there's nothing, as you said, there's no Eternatus in this set. Something that really lives up to it. And I think it's probably the best like fighting type thing you have. And so if you're really going into something and really just want to counter things, I guess you can play that over Excadrill. But yeah, I don't think it's like groundbreaking.
I got some Vivid Voltage packs this past weekend and opened one of those amazing rares. They're really cool looking. Like, I hope we get some more playable ones, and then obviously when events come back, whenever that may be, they're just so cool looking. I definitely want to like fill my deck with them, and maybe we'll get like triple rainbow or something stupid to help power them up. Or like Azul said, maybe they're just sitting in the binder for the rest of their existence. But we Henry and I decided not to touch on Vivid Voltage too much because we've talked about the last two shows, but we definitely want to get Azul's quick thoughts on Orbeetle and some other things. I want to go ahead and branch into something that we touched a little bit about on the podcast last time indirectly, but expanded. We got some really cool news recently. Shame in the X Band, Sableye, Dark Explorers, Oranguru from Ultra Prism, Melodic, and I think that was it. There might be one more. But what are your thoughts on the ban list? I think I saw on Twitter or in a stream from you that you weren't completely satisfied with them, but they're in the right direction. What are your thoughts on that as well?
My thing was just kind of like they didn't. I feel like they didn't actually do anything because for expanded to exist as a format, those are almost essential. Like scoop up net shaming was obviously ridiculous, and I think shaming was definitely the culprit of that. And actually, with the way they went, like recently with Crobat and Dedenne, it kind of makes sense to just kind of get rid of Shaman, right? Then obviously Melodic had to go because Trevnor was too good, but Trevnor's a cool card, and Melodic is definitely going to have problems in the future for any cards they would print if they want to keep expanded around. So it makes sense to get rid of that. And then Oranguru and Sableye should have been probably both banned years ago. Oranguru should have been banned like I don't know. We went far enough where it just definitely should have been banned at some point. So I would just kind of like because I want Pokemon to become better and more aggressive with making the game better. So I feel like this was only things that they essentially had to do to keep expanded around. So they didn't really do anything to the format. Like nothing changed. Like they had to do this if expanded wanted to exist. Like otherwise it would just slowly decay and become so toxic that no one would play, and then they would have to just kind of get rid of it. So I wanted to see other stuff banned. I personally want to see VS Seeker banned and Battle Compressor and Execute. I'd mentioned like Skyfield before, but I've kind of rethought that one for sure. But I feel like they just didn't really do anything. Like they had to make those bans, so a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, do you think Scoop Up Net is going to be a problem even without Shaman? Do you think it's probably okay as it is? Because I know it can be used in a lot of like I guess wall stall decks, which I guess may be mitigated without Guru and Sableye, but in general it still seems like a pretty meta defining card.
Yeah, that could definitely be a problem. I didn't thought about it in terms of that. I always thought about it more in terms of attacking decks, and I felt like there was just like no way to overly abuse it in attacking decks. But yeah, wall stalls that could definitely still be a problem for sure. Like that's like +4 max potions, which is a
Yeah.
pretty big deal. So I could definitely see that being a problem. I didn't thought about it in those terms. Um, we'll wait and see. I mean, like there's like we haven't had any real expanded events, but there's the Limitless week. The next 2 weeks of Limitless weeklies are going to be expanded, so we'll see
Okay.
something decent out of that. I'm sure for what seems to be solid at the very least.
I was thinking Scoop Up Net with Seismitoad EX could be decent. You got 8 different energies you can use with it, plus special charge. Then Seismitoad's always pretty good, but it might have just been HP crept out of the format. Something Chip brings up in the chat that Bunny is better than Sableye and Guru. Do you think that also should have gone, or is Bunny okay?
I mean, maybe that should have that probably should have gone as well. But Bunny was like, and it's got so much less HP. Like one of the things with Guru is actually its HP was always like kind of something you had to like. I mean, some decks once they set up, they could just knock it out. But like early Gurus or even late game Gurus to make it awkward for you to take the knockout, that was like a big thing. Um, and I mean, Sableye kind of took a huge hit when Puzzle got banned. But was still always kind of there. I mean, yeah, Bunny's another thing that maybe should also just have gone, and they should have just like included that with the rest of them. It's a lot cooler of a card and can be included in other decks in more ways. Like over the years, it's been used as like a way to like just mill people out. Like people would include it as like a one of in their Vespa Queen deck because you could just discard your opponent's 2 cards and win the game sometimes with it. Like I've seen that before, and you could use it to recover on your end too. So it was never used as heavily as of a control card like the other two were. But yeah, if those two go, then I see no reason that Bunny also shouldn't go as well. Like that should probably be banned as well for sure.
Yeah, I think Bunnelby's really cool, as you said. Like it's got more use, and it's actually like that. Just very tangential, but the agent trade on that is something we could even like to see back in the game. And it was always interesting something they did with the card, and it's I guess unique compared to other things. And I guess rather than just recycling pure cards, you can do a lot of different things with it. But there's a lot of different options to get banned and expanded. And as you said, it feels like a very weak-handed approach. But I guess they got to do what they got to do to keep it going.
I'm hoping that we start to see some more expanded support with these bans. I'm excited to play the format, and I think that if it gets more recognition, I'll probably find more problems with it, more things to ban over time, and then people voicing their opinions might get heard. It's about time that they ban this card, but I agree with Azul completely. It seems a little late for some of these cards, like Guru. It's been around forever, and people from like day one when it started seeing play were just like, this card shouldn't be allowed. This card's a little too good. But yeah, it's crazy. Unfortunately, there's not enough expanded stuff, so like the ban list doesn't affect a whole lot. As you mentioned, the Limitless event's going to be going on. But I want to transition from expanded into standard. We got the Players Cup qualifiers ending this past week. I unfortunately did not qualify myself. Didn't play perfectly. Had some rough games. Henry, I don't think played. He's going to be casting some of the Oceania region things. And then Azul, you qualified quite highly. What were your thoughts on how the event was ran this time compared to last time? And then thoughts on the format, where it's going forward, the bracket, anything like that?
Definitely like a major improvement overall. I guess one thing that would have been cool to see that I didn't really like think about too much until I kind of figured out how the 'cause I didn't play in the first Players Cup, but how the the tournament on Battlefire work, which is kind of like random seeding from here on out. But it would have been cool if first seed actually somehow gained an advantage, or top 8 seeds or something like that, like a buy or something. I don't know how they would actually do anything with it, but that would have been cool. But way better than the first time around, obviously, because everyone's on an even playing field if they want to participate. Anyone who wants to participate, who is like within the age restrictions, can participate, which I still think is something I would love to see change, like some way to get the juniors and seniors players involved in these official tournaments, because um, yeah, just kind of, I mean, we might be here for another year plus, right? So just kind of stinks that they don't have can't play in the official tournaments. But yeah, I mean, it went pretty well for me. I think I ended 6th overall in North America. Kind of played a couple different decks. Mostly Pikarom, I think, was the one I played the most. But then I was kind of trolling with my last couple tournaments, playing like Grand Solteria deck and stuff. So, um, but I wasn't like uh, you know, going super hard out to get first place. I streamed all my keys, so I got stream sniped, a couple times for sure. Who knows how many times total? So, but I wasn't too worried about it or anything. But the meta is like, um, it's unfortunately shifting back to very heavy ADP. It was like we had a couple weeks ago, we had a little bit of like felt like a break from ADP being by far the most dominant, and now I think it's the most dominant it's ever been in these tournaments. Like it's taking up like 30% of the meta in some of these online tournaments, which is just getting a little tiring and boring. And I think one of the reasons is because the Players Cup is coming up, so literally everyone is like, "Well," I mean, that's what we saw happen when the Players Cup qualifiers came out. It's just like, "Well, why not just play the best deck?" Right? And then you can't blame anyone for playing it, of course. It's a competition, so why not play the best deck, right? So I think ADP is gonna be super popular. And then, from there, Pikarom, I think Luke Metal. I wouldn't like I mentioned this on my stream today. I wouldn't be that surprised if Luke Metal was actually the most popular deck, or at least the most successful. Because it feels like a lot of um, the better better players, people who have like consistently placed in tournaments are like starting to gravitate towards Luke Metal. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was just the most successful deck in the tournament. I think one of the reasons people are starting to gravitate towards that is obviously the ADP matchup is fine. Um, and then the Pikarom matchup, I think, is where people are trying to get an edge. Either people are playing, either you're an ADP player, you're currently playing Pikarom, or you're trying to beat Pikarom and ADP. And a Luke Metal is definitely a deck that can do that for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of weird. I almost expected the qualifiers to be in the next format, but I guess it makes sense to kind of keep them in the same thing that everyone's been playing. Do you feel that you would have rathered the qualifiers be in the next format, or stick in the same one?
I mean, yeah, I would have been fine with them going into the next format. I guess it makes, I mean, the way it's time lined up, they'd have to push this out like another week or two from now for it to play in it. But I would have been happier with it being in the next format. Um, so I assume the just the invitational will probably be in the next format then. But yeah, I would have liked it if the whole thing was in the next. I would like it if they lined it up where like the qualifiers start like 2 weeks after the new set comes out, and it's something fresh. Because right now we're at the end of the format, and then we're playing in the biggest tournament of uh of the format is happening at the end of the format. So it's like super stale. Like nobody wants to play in this. The new set's coming out. Like I was like I learned that if I do make it to the round of 16 or whatever, that's 2 days after Vivid Voltage comes out. I don't want to be playing Players Cup top 16. I want to be playing with the new cards, right? So
Yeah,
but yeah, I would love it if they had like pushed it so like qualifiers start 2 weeks after the new sets comes out. So maybe in the next one they'll do that, but that would be super nice to see.
I wonder if they made it like this because the next set after Vivid Voltage is getting delayed, and so we're gonna have a longer um, thing. At least I'm pretty sure it's getting delayed. I might be wrong on my source here, but uh, because it's getting delayed, we would have a longer format. So I wonder if they know that the next Players Cup is probably going to be in that one rather than the next one, and then therefore, they're having the current one in the current format. But I guess we'll have to see if it deviates at all from how stale it's kind of been.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense for sure. Yeah, I didn't know about that at all, but yeah, that would make sense that if they wanted to get some kind of tournament in this format for sure, or a bigger part of this, because I guess the end of Players Cup 1 was in this format as well, invitational part.
Yeah, I think I was the one that brought up the thing getting delayed. From what I could hear from certain like distributors and things, is that it will be delayed till next March. Not sure why, but I mean that's what I've heard. I would assume that's somewhat accurate. But I think the reason that they make the invitational, or sorry, not the invitational, the final qualifiers the way it is I think it has something to do with like hyping up the new set. Or the new format. That's how, at least how I felt when I was in the final 16. It's like it didn't really make sense to me why we would play the same format we had been playing. I guess there weren't any official events at the time, but it was like they are broadcasting the whole thing preemptively, so they want you to go out there, showcase the new format with the like top players from the tournament, so to say. So I think that's probably why they're doing it. But I agree with Azul. I think it'd been really cool to see the qualifiers and the 256 bracket and the finals all in the same new format. Give people like something to test for that they haven't already been testing. But you know, whatever. It is what it is. And hopefully we'll see Azul in the top 16 and maybe your next Players Cup champion here. But I don't know. It's definitely interesting, and hopefully Vivid Voltage does something, makes it a little bit more fresh. But, you know, after talking to 3 guests now about that set, it seems a little underwhelming, so it is what it is. We'll have to see for the future. But I wanted to touch on, since we were talking a little bit about meta decks and stuff, I wanted to talk a little bit about stall concept and things. I think it was this week that I saw a few results on Twitter of people just like throwing in 2-2 Altaria. I think Isaiah Bradner made quite the god tweet saying instead of 4 Crushing Hammers, it's just 2-2 Altaria. Be warned. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that these like stall archetypes or the stall Crushing Hammers are just making their way into decks now? Like, is that just a one-time thing, or do you think you'll see that in the bracket?
I don't. It's kind of like it's not very good. I actually lost to a Luke Metal that had a 2-2 Altaria in the top 4 of the Hagster tournament, I think, on Monday. I think it was that one. But like I misplayed myself into a situation where you know, I didn't give myself the best odds to be able to beat it. So it's like kind of cute. I think uh it's mostly there to try and take advantage of ADP, not playing an answer to it. I think for the most part, that's why people have the 2-2 Altaria and like the Extra Drill deck, because Extra Drill kind of struggles with the ADP. And I think like a big thing is like it's like people don't know like how to you know, adjust their play properly to when they run into someone playing that 2-2 Altaria. They don't know what to do to, you know, because you have to drastically change what you do if it does get set up, right? And yeah, it's just a lot of players don't know what to do in those situations. Like they don't, you know, they don't hit that's the kind of situation that often and stuff like that. So it's just like it's a little cheesy, and it definitely takes advantage of like people's inexperience with trying to deal with those scenarios for sure. I don't think it's very good overall. It is like a little cheesy thing. Like I wouldn't be against playing it myself, but it's not something that should stick around in the long term for sure.
Yeah, and so with that in mind, going into the Players Cup, are you kind of like, do you want to be able to beat these random kind of things like 4 Crushing Hammer, 2-2 Altaria? Are you gonna like expect it, or are you kind of just, are you gonna adjust your deck to beat it anyway, or are you thinking you just kind of play it's gonna beat the strongest decks and worry about that? Like, where are you sitting on the tech versus, I guess, consistency scale?
But I'm definitely leaning more towards consistency recently. I mean, crushing hammers are kind of just it almost feels like a norm at this point, less so of a tech. It's just like in so many decks at this point, it's just like I've like it doesn't matter what deck you're playing, like you've been dealing with crushing hammer. And the thing about the crushing hammer index is like it doesn't do as much as people think. Like they have to cut cards to add those, right? Like I've had so many situations where I'll run into an ADP or an Eternatus, they get their crushing hammer heads, but then they whiff attachment for turn and they just passed, right? So like they're losing something, and it doesn't like they don't just have everything alongside the crushing hammer heads, right? Or the crushing hammers in their deck. So um for most decks, it doesn't feel like it makes that big of an impact. I think Pikarom took the biggest advantage of Crushing Hammer when I like for all the decks that I played. Like I didn't like Crushing Hammers in Luke Metal. I don't think I'd ever try and fit them in ADP or Eternatus. There's so much stuff I'd rather play. But in Pikarom, it felt like even if I hit 4 tails, I was like I wasn't missing cards. I've taken them out of my Pikarom as of late, but that's a deck where I felt like it just fit the best. As far as the 2-2 Altaria thing goes, I mean, if I for some reason play ADP, I might consider a Duraludon, but I'd probably go with an Oranguru. I think I could beat a 2-2 Altaria in like an extra drill if I just have an Oranguru and Mawile. Like that should be no problem. I'm not like worried about it. to a huge extent. And Pikarom, like you have answers, like you have to just reserve your Coco potentially, but if you hit an extra drill with a 2-troll Altaria, you're probably losing anyway, so that's like not something to worry about for that one. And those are the main deck has been like the 2-troll Altaria and like the extra drill deck for sure. But yeah, I personally just like for the decks that I'm considering, which is mainly just Pikarom. And I started playing with some Mewtwo box today, and that was feeling pretty good. I'm not going to go too far out of my way to try and deal with the Altarias. Whatever the tools that are currently in the decks is feels like enough, so I'm not going to go any further than that.
Okay, that makes sense. But also to touch on, I believe it won your sub tournament a very interesting Mewtwo deck. Um, talk to me about that. I saw your video on it. Do you think it's got any merit?
It's definitely very cool, and it the big thing that Mewtwo lost was Macargo. I think that was the biggest thing Mewtwo lost was Macargo GX. Because basically once you use your whatever GX attack you use, you don't have like a big follow up of just damage. But the Reshiram kind of adds that to the deck, especially up against stuff like Pikarom specifically. Super good against that. So that's like super nice to have again in the deck, but and it does help you play around Crushing Hammer a little bit, especially because Mewtwo right now is like your big attacks are on 4 energy. So if they just hit 1 heads if you go first, then you just can't get to that 4 energy turn on the turn 2. But the Coco Prism kind of helps that out, and you can still get to 4 energy turn 2 to Flare Strike or Flare Blitz with the Charizard. So that's like nice. But I feel like you lose too much when you just not having Naganadel is like almost
Yeah.
enough where it's just like Naganadel is such a big card and completely change how you can play games with Mewtwo just for closing out games, being able to go, 3-prizer, 2-prizer, snipe a Zigzagoon against a Eternatus, stuff like that. So I think the Ganadel itself makes it just a worse variant. It's still cool and it has its own tricks, but yeah, I would still go with the psychic build for sure, I think, overall.
Okay. It's good to know that you still think Mewtwo has a little bit of legs.
It's still kicking. I think it'll probably kick until it rotates because there's still a decent amount of enough attacks where you can like make it work, and depending on what's actually good right now.
I remember Danny actually pitching the idea of like a Reshiram Mewtwo to me right before the Players' Cup, but he was under the impression that it was the POG Championship format, and we thought that Turbo Patch accelerated to GX. So it was kind of a whole mess around. I haven't actually seen the deck that you guys are talking about, but seems interesting. Reshiram's kind of, I mean, it's cool. It does deal damage, like you're saying, and Mewtwo's definitely kind of felt that loss, that it doesn't do a whole lot of damage outside of the 300. So kind of just have to hope that your aggression takes you there and then try and Flare Strike. I've played a few qualifiers with Mewtwo, and it was alright. It wasn't too terrible, but I'm definitely interested in seeing Mewtwo making a comeback. I'm super curious about the Players' Cup meta, and only time will tell. So anyone playing at the Players' Cup, including Azul, good luck. And we're going to go ahead and hop into the next part of the show. This is probably everyone's favorite part of the show. It's the hotline part of the show. It's the thing that makes this cast unique. For everyone that's new here, or if you've never been to this show before, the way that this works, you're going to be using the command !Discord or !Hotline. They'll take you to the Jenks' Lab Discord server. From there, once you join it, you're going to see a few options to look at different channels. You want to go ahead and head over to the instructions channel under the PTCG Hotline tab. From there, just go ahead and read that real quick just so we can avoid any problems. And then once you've done that, you're going to put your topic into the podcast topics text channel. From there, join the waiting room, and then in no order, you'll be moved from the waiting room into the live call with Henry, Azul, and I. And then we're going to be talking all the topics. We want your hottest tasted topics, and we're going to go in the Azul, Henry, and then myself order, tackling these topics. So I'm excited, and once someone joins the waiting room, we got our first caller. Gonna go ahead and bring him in. Welcome back to the call, Jacob. How's it going? Not quite unmuted yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and read his topic.
Hey, sorry about that.
No worries.
Hey man, welcome back.
Hey, I'm Jacob. My username's Kazuma, and so I wanted to talk about Pikarom. Pikarom's been in standard for like 10 sets now, and it's been pretty good in all of them, from pretty good to like crazy good. And I was curious what everyone's favorite iteration of the deck in standard was, or to either play or to play against, and why you like that iteration.
You want me to go first, right,
Yeah.
Jenks? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I played Pikarom at a couple events overall, and then a lot recently. I think my favorite list was the list me and the rest of my testing group played in Berlin, where it was just 2 Pikarom. We didn't play the Coco GX, and then it was funny because I won every mirror match except one, and they always played around my Coco GX that didn't exist, so it was very funny. But yeah, it just felt very weird to play because it was just 2 Pikarom and then like a couple small dudes. It was just like it was a ton of fun. It was a ton of fun, especially because no one had any idea what was in the list. Um, and then yeah, the biggest thing was just like no Zeraora, no Coco Coco GX. But I don't know. I don't know why I had so much fun with that list, but it really was a ton of fun, that one specifically.
It's always fun to surprise your opponents.
Yeah, I think that kind of list definitely, like that format. So when Pikarom first came out, those iterations were definitely the ones I liked the most. I think kind of like, Gustavo Wada's winning list from Berlin, like those kind of variants where the focus isn't on just getting turn 1 or 2 full blitz. Like you actually like play through the game, and like the mirrors are really interesting. The deck is really skill expressive. You go like Thunderous Assault, like all these different ways to play. You a lot of the time you only use one Pikarom, right? Like you use Zapdos a couple times, you full blitz, and then you do your thing afterwards. And I think that felt really rewarding to play. And also, like I myself didn't play that deck for the event because I thought, okay, it's only a week out from like Berlin. I'm not going to get enough time to where I'm confident enough in the mirror, because there's going to be people who've been playing the deck with the whole format, and I'm not going to beat them in the mirror because it was that actually took that much skill. Obviously not every game, but a lot of the time. And so that's compared to more like some iterations of Pikarom where you kind of just play all your cards down solitaire turn 1 and see if you get full blitz. Definitely felt nicer.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So I'm sure everyone knows, especially if you're from my channel, I'm quite the Pikarom extraordinaire enthusiast. Friends with the Justin Bocari. The guy doesn't let the deck die. Wow. This is such a difficult question because I feel like I've loved it every time I've played it. There's definitely been a few times where I've felt less confident about it than before, but I feel like my initial introduction to Pikarom when I played it in Collinsville, Missouri, after seeing Kaiwin Kababe do really well with it in Australia, as well as a bunch of other players, I feel like that's when I disliked it the most. But by the end of that tournament, I was like, wow, this deck is so good. It has so much potential to be improved. I don't think our list is perfect. And going forward, we can make it better. So I think that my first time playing it is probably my least favorite time playing it, just because it felt so inconsistent. I was so bad at playing it compared to how much I learned from playing it. And I don't know, it's just crazy. So that was definitely my least favorite time playing it. And then I actually think my favorite time playing it was probably the POG Championships. I really like Item Lock. I like decks that don't allow the opponent to play, and taking my favorite deck, Pikarom, and adding Vikavolts to it, genius inclusion by Bradner and the gang, was just so much fun. I was feeling super washed, just came off losing in the Players' Cup, but no one knew that at the time, unless you put 2 and 2 together, and then I got to Item Lock my opponents all day, and it was a good feeling. So I think that was probably my favorite time, just because I could abuse Item Lock in one of my favorite decks.
Yeah, one of my favorite types of Pikarom to play actually is the type that really denies the opponent, just plays a lot of reset stamp, a lot of paralysis with Choo Choo, and the crazy Electro Power version was fun too, but I feel like the more stally version is more skill intensive, which I like.
I also wanted to add, I forgot about this when Azul was speaking. When Azul and the gang played their version of Pikarom to Berlin, my friend group thought that deck was actually just so bad. I'm pretty sure I talked to Azul about this in Connecticut. I think we were all sitting down at a table. I was playing old format versus Pram. I'm like, bro, why was your Berlin list so bad? Just no Coco, no Zeraora, and he had an excuse for everything. But I just remember looking at that list and being like, nah, this is not it. Do you want to defend your list a little bit?
I mean, we just tested the mirror a lot, and we were just like, Coco doesn't. And actually, the one mirror match I lost to, he didn't play Coco GX either. We were like, Zeraora basically doesn't do anything except take up a bench space, which is not good when you would want like a second Jirachi or something down, or you let loose again, or something like it's okay attacker, but like it's really not that great. Um, and then we were just like, if you just go, Zapdos, or Zapdos, Pikarom, Zapdos, like the combos like that in the price trade, depending on the matchup. And we were like, we were pretty confident that the Zoroark matchup was just favorable too. Like, um, and I beat a ton of Zoroarks at that event as well. And it was like we just tested the mirror a lot, and we're like, Zeraora is just a bench space most of the time, and then Coco GX doesn't do anything. Because if they just KO your Coco GX after, like, you just split your energy on your Pikaroms, and then you can just switch them around for the tag ball. If they don't KO it, then it just doesn't actually do anything. Um, it was just, I don't know. It just like they felt irrelevant in our testing, and I was super confident in that event as well with the list. Like I lost my win in to top 8, um, unfortunately. But yeah, once I started playing with it in the event, it just felt so good. I don't know, like our testing just like led to the list the way it was, and then I mean, I don't regret playing it at all, for sure.
Yeah, sounds like a fun list. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about it after like I voiced that opinion, and it made a little bit more sense than some of our initial thoughts. So yeah, definitely don't think it was as bad as I did at the time. But thanks, Jacob, for coming on as always. We're gonna go ahead and slide
thanks
into the
for
next
having me.
guest. No problem, my guy. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, so the next guy we're gonna join in got robbed of being first, so we're gonna go ahead and bring him in. It's the TCG dude. How are you doing, my guy? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
What's up?
Logan from Victoria, BC, Canada.
Awesome. Nice to have you on, Logan. What is your topic and your opinion on that topic?
Yes, I was just wondering what you guys think of like the new Rusted Sword card. I just think that it's super broken and they shouldn't have printed it.
Okay, so Rusted Sword and it's broken. Azul, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a very strong card, right? Because we've had cards like similar where it's just like plus damage, but they've been usually a little bit more universal. Muscle band, silver bangle had like very good. I really liked silver bangle specifically. I thought that was a very good card for just plus damage in the format that it was in. Choice band, one of the more recent ones. Choice band was played in so many decks. There's so many choice bands when that was being played. So this one, yeah, obviously limited to Zacian, which feels a little bit weird. So it feels unnecessary for Zacian or even the Zamazenta card. That's like, what does it do? Plus 70 HP or something? Like that's just
Yeah,
like a
plus
lot
70.
of a lot of stats to add to a Pokemon for either card. And it's limited to just the card. One of the things I've been like kind of changed my mindset on like how I think about cards that are coming out and stuff. Like obviously I have the opinion that ADP should be banned, but we have to kind of like almost like hope that they have a plan for why they're printing cards the way they are, because none of us really have control over or making it change or something. So we don't know everything else that's coming out in the set around that card. And maybe their idea is once rotation hits, they want Zacian to be able to keep up with VMAXs or hitting at least a certain number. And that's why they're giving it to it. With ADP and everything, it seems like it could be a lot. I mean, you can hit. We were talking like with Berserkers, you can hit up to like 320. But that's like a lot of stuff you'd have to pull off. I don't think that's like actually gonna happen. Like the deck would be too clunky. Like it won't consistently happen game to game. You could have that one game where you one hit KO a Centiskorch with a Zacian and draw 4 prize cards, but it's not going to happen consistently. I don't think. And I don't think the numbers besides that actually help out the card too much. I mean, the one like obvious matchup is Luke Metal versus ADP Zacian. All of a sudden, is you have your Rusty Sword and you get through their GX attack, right? But we don't know everything else that's coming out in the set. And maybe there's going to be enough other good cards where, we see a lot of this stuff like the Luke Metals and the Pikaroms just become irrelevant decks, but maybe we see 4 to 5 new decks come out of this new set, right? So, holding out hope that some other really strong cards come out alongside the Sword and the Shield.
Yeah, so I think that the shield's pretty good, but it's a passive tool, and I'm kind of against those on principle. But the sword itself, I think it's kind of like it feels like a bait almost. So we see it and we're like, what have they done? Like, oh, these people hate us. Like they're doing this on purpose. Like, what did we commit in the past life to do this? But honestly, it feels fine because I don't think ADP gets much usage out of it outside of tag teams, and we already know they're just trying to bully tag teams out of the format anyway. So if we exclude that, we go to like it actually kind of incentivizes decks playing without ADP because it gives you the damage bonus already without having to use a GX attack. And so a straightforward Zacian deck is more likely. Like, you could make up the damage with something like Orbeetle or the Berserkers, things like that, and you can actually reach. Now, like, does Zacian need to be able to one-shot those Pokemon? I don't know, but like, is that okay? Don't know, but at least it incentivizes, I guess, moving away from the very standard archetypicalization decks that we have at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with Henry. From an initial look at it, it seemed pretty busted. It made a little Twitter video that enhanced that, just kind of like waking up and being like, oh, this card's kind of dumb. But I mean, as time goes on, I think that both Henry and Azul are right. It might not be as good as people make it out to be. You can see this with a lot of cards that come out, whether it's a tool, an item, or whatever, like Turbo Patch. So I agree with Azul. I think things get printed for a reason, and they're probably just trying to force tag teams out. Of course, the Lucario Memetalization matchup, the Pikarom matchup, are matchups that can now be swung by that tool, but I think everything gets printed for a reason. So we'll just have to find out and see. I think for now it's a card to be afraid of, but once it comes out, maybe it's not as bad as people think. So with that, Logan, thanks for coming on. It's good to have you, and hopefully that answered some of your questions on the Rusted Sword.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Good talking to you guys.
Have a good night.
Gotta hope at least. Hopefully they don't come out with a stadium that says you can have like 2 Rusted Sword on your Zacian or something.
Oh god, bro. Yo, Genesect rotated, right? Thank God. Alright, that's not what that does, but you get the concept. Maybe we get some guy that's like double tools, you be right. We're gonna go ahead and drag in my boy Ricky, who's on the call last time, brought some really spicy topics. This time he has another good one, so I'm gonna go ahead and let him introduce himself. Yo, what's going on? What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey guys, my name's Ricky. I come from Vancouver, and my question is a two-parter. So my question would just be, have you guys played against any people that are considered less well known in the community that you were like really impressed with after you played them? And then my second part of the question would just be like, do you remember a specific play that they made that made you impressed by them? Or it could just be a play by anyone else that you recall that you were really impressed by. Wanted to hear your thoughts.
Go ahead and start with Azul, and then same order.
All right. Man, I just play so much Pokemon. It's just like so like all blurs together. I mean, I've been playing against a lot of online tournaments. I've been playing against a lot of very solid players that I've like never played against before or even heard about. And it's like I mean, they like it just like, I like know what play I think they should make, and then they make it. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. And then, um, and then sometimes they do like the next level thing where they, um, whereas like I know that I don't want them to do that, and then they do that, and like I guess I'm impressed. I mean, I can't like think of anyone off the top of my head because yeah, I just play so much Pokemon. I like all blurs together at some point for me, but yeah, but like I'm just a lot recently. Like I've seen just like solid play from a lot of people. And in general, because I've been playing in so many of these online tournaments, and a lot of them are like fairly international. Like it's like there's a lot of people from a lot of different places in the world playing in these tournaments. So it's really cool to play in all those and play against all the solid players from all around the world. But yeah, I can't pick anybody off the top of my head because it all just blurs together for me.
Not the
Yeah,
legendary. Go ahead.
I can't pick anyone. I think I agree with Azul. Every ADP I play against on ladder is really good at using more while.
Shout out Kai.
So I guess
Kaikwim. What's his name, Azul? Kaikwim.
Hmm?
What's the person in your chat's name? Kaikwim. The guy that.
Oh, Kaikwim, yeah.
Yeah, shout out that guy. He's really good.
Yeah, shout out all the TCG ADP players. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anyone specifically, but there's always is, and often you see, I think the thing is as well is that people that do this probably won't stay unknown for too long, as well. So if you play against them early on, then probably a year down the track they're gonna have won something, or done pretty well. So I think it's definitely happened fairly frequently though.
I think Ricky's question was like in general with in-person events too, so that's what I'm gonna answer mine off of. And I haven't like played a ton of online tournaments, just a few. Yo, thanks Cash for the raid. So for people that I think are like slept on, in general from my area specifically, He kind of bounces around my area and I believe the St. Louis area. I definitely have to say my friend Mustafa Toba. He is consistently like coming up with good ideas at regionals. When he play tests with us, I'm always surprised by some of the plays that he makes. I definitely feel like he's like someone that's way less well known. That's definitely underrated. And then as for like, I mean, these are people that are kind of known already. I think Michael Bergerac is like one of the most slept on players in current time. I would have said Hunter Butler as well, but he recently won a regional, so I think he's I think he's pretty known now. And then someone that I was really impressed by when playing in Madison 2019 last year, I played against a player named Patrick Littleson, who I believe has been in the game for a while. And I was playing Pika versus Zoroark Slow King, I think I want to say, and there were some plays, nothing specific, that I was just really impressed by, and he actually beat me quite handedly. And I just think that's someone that's definitely like a little underrated. So if you hit any of those names, definitely stay on the lookout.
And you've got quite a memory there, Jenks. Jeez. Yeah, I know Patrick. Patrick's good. Big improvement since like the first time I played against him, met him.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's really cool with the online era too. It doesn't even have to be the in-person timing, but like it's just brought out so many people that I can't name specifics. I don't pay super close attention, but like the people that are winning events are not the same people that were dominating in-person events. And you could say that this is just because people that were, you could consider the top weren't playing as much, but there are a lot of newer names that I'm seeing in some of these tournaments, and it's really cool to like see people get some recognition for stuff, whether it's a deck they made or just a well played or whatever. So I think some of these streams are really good at highlighting that. And
yeah, actually, and I actually do have a specific example I remembered. It wasn't against someone completely unknown, against Celio's network, one of our favorite content creators. I can't say that. But we had a game. I was playing Zoroark, Dugong. And Naganadel, like Stefan's list, and I was drawing pretty slowly. But he used Miltank to heal his board rather than just playing aggressive. Because the only win con for me was Stinger. So rather than just like I guess kind of rolling over me, he was careful and removed the Dugong damage with Miltank. So I was like, yeah, okay, I lose now. I'm done.
yeah, I mean it's just really cool. There's tons of new decks. I mean, the frequency that tournaments are run, people can try new stuff all the time. But Ricky, thanks for an amazing topic. Always bringing on the good ones, and hope to see you in the next episode.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
See you, Ricky. Have a good one. All right, so unfortunately, we missed this guy last week, but he is now back. We got the guy with two hats. What's going on, Alex? What's the topic?
So I have something that I am very passionate about, and that is cards that get banned. I never agree with cards that get banned because I like unfair, obnoxious, unfun to play against cards like Lusamine, Delinquent, Hexmaniac, Getsus. I like all of that stuff. But these in particular, I'm sorry, but these felt particularly harsh. These were banned and expanded, to be specific.
How so? Explain.
Okay, so my explanation. The biggest one for me, actually, was Sableye. Sableye's been around for, was it, I think it was 2012 it came around in, if I'm not mistaken, and Dark Explorers, and it's been really good. It was a healthy card in Darkrai decks because it got you back your Dark Patches and let you do what you wanted. And then it became kind of a control deck, but a fairly balanced control deck because sure, it had access to puzzle times eventually, but it also got balanced out by the fact that you can get gets out of stuff, you can get end out of stuff, red card. There was natural hand disruption in the game. So that already balanced it out enough. And then just pure item lock came out as it is. The fact that these cards came into your hand meant that they could be easily disrupted as well. So also take note of that, like with red card, like I said before. But natural item lock came out. It's a basic Pokemon, so eventually basic locking Pokemon, just came out like Vileplume, and just it felt the most balanced out of all of the control cards. That's my first one. Oranguru. I understand people have wanted to get this card banned for I don't know how long. I don't know, it's been like forever. But I think it was great for control and against control. I know control is not fun to play against. Believe me, I know. As the player who loves to play control and the player who's played against it. Yet, I have a slight confession though. I do like playing against any type of deck. I have a problem. But long story short, I understand that. But the thing is, it's healthy for control decks to exist in a format. It's healthy for them to be good, in fact. They can even be really good. We saw that with Pidgeotto control, how great it was. We even saw the legend himself, the Justin Bocari, be able to defeat control with Pikarom, which should have been an unfavorable matchup. Shout out to him for being an absolute legend, I would also like to add. So it's okay for control to be good, and control has been great. So in my opinion, you're just getting rid of a possible archetype that, yes, is not fun to play against, but should be a natural part of the game. And honestly, I understand Shaman EX. It quote unquote unlocks some toxic strategies and has so for the past I don't know how many years. But with the new turn 1 rule change that you can't play supporter, I found it more important. Yes, we have the Dene, yes, we have Crobat, but with the speed of how decks aren't expanded, it just seems like every deck should have access to maybe one Shaman. Maybe they could have errated it to say you could only use one setup per turn. I was about to call it dark asset.
So to summarize, Ranguru and Sableye shouldn't have been banned because control archetypes are healthy for the game. All right, Azul, thoughts?
I think to an extent, but I mean, if you just look at Collinsville, like that was kind of ridiculous. I mean, I had fun with my Eco Arm Doll Stall deck, but like, I don't think I should have been able to play that deck. And I think you should have to work harder to make control and stall work. In formats, like I think actually the perfect power level of a control deck, unless you get really, really creative, and then maybe it only works for one event, is like Sylveon. Like I felt like Sylveon GX was like a super strong deck as far as control decks go, but it was like super beatable, and you could easily tech against it too. But you could beat the techs too. Like I don't know, it felt like it was the proper power level of a control deck, and without getting too creative. Sylveon GX just felt just like it was like the perfect power level of a constant control deck in a format. But I think what we saw at Collinsville was definitely way too much, and too easy and too easily played, and too powerful. Like control decks and stall decks shouldn't be that powerful. There should be like you should have to work harder to make them work. The norm of the game should be drawing 6 prize cards, right? And that should be easy to do, like easy to play a deck that does that. And I think they're finally starting to head in that direction. Maybe with these bans, like, oh wait, we don't want these kind of decks to exist, and I don't think they should exist. I mean, I'm fine, when Sander wins the next regional with whatever control deck he comes up with, but he works very hard to make his control decks work in metas where people seemingly think they should be impossible to work, and I think that's when those kind of decks should win. Is when you have to go that extra mile to make them work, because part of the game has to be fun. Like if no one has fun playing the game, no one's going to play the game, right? But we want the game to grow and we want the game to exist. So if we go into the next expanded regionals and half the decks are doll stall, no one's going to have fun. Like those kind of decks just shouldn't be able to be played at that power level, at that popularity.
Shout out to that time I randomly brought a control deck when everybody thought control was dead right after Lusamine got banned.
I agree with Azul. I think that control decks should be the decks teching for other decks rather than like decks innately having to tech to beat them. So you kind of like have to put an effort to beat decks, and then obviously if people could just adjust the tech for it at that time. But a control deck should identify specific weaknesses in the format or in the in decks, things like that, and really exploit them. And that's hard to do, right? Like Sander does it every time, but it's difficult. And obviously that's what you want to do with every time you build a deck, but specifically with control. And I think these infinite loop like recursion cards like enable such strong baseline strategies that they just beat so many decks just automatically, which I think as an archetype control kind of shouldn't. So I know you like to fancy yourself a bit of a super villain, Alex, but I think these bans are fine. We'll have to see if Bundlebee gets the same treatment or if it keeps getting exploited. But especially with dolls and like just infinitely having no prize walls is a little bit on the uninteractive side.
I would like to add something though. what I've generally seen a pattern in throughout the game is that eventually the format fixes itself. Azul and his whole hashtag DDG win team played Zorotoad for like 3 months straight. And I'll never forget, I forgot where I was. I think I was in the hospital and I saw Jimmy playing in the finals with the Zorotoad deck, and I was like, yo, this is so cool. But right when they banned Lusamine, that is when Pikarom came out. And Pikarom was kind of, in my opinion, the beginning of the end for control decks for the most part. Because honestly, those basic energy heavy decks were just not great for Zorotoad to deal with, not counting Rayquaza. If Turbo Dark existed when Zorotoad was really good, it would have just gotten slapped. I promise you, I have actually experimented with that. I have too much time with that. So like, I found that control also goes through phases where it's good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad. And also, I would like to note that when Surge was legal, I would also like to argue that Surge was a healthy card because it wasn't just used in control decks. It was used in non-control decks to help give it a chance against decks that it normally wouldn't have a chance against. A great example of this is Zorogarb. At the Portland 2019, was that 2019? Yeah, it was 2019 regional. We saw the Ian Robb, the absolute legend himself, take down control in top 4 and just be able to beat decks similarly. I think Michael Catron was able to even get top 16 at the Richmond regional the weekend before, and was even able to take down some control decks just because you had access to hand disruption and stuff like Lieutenant Surge, and you can use Iris maybe once or twice and be able to take down tag teams. After the banning of Lieutenant Surge, Zoroark had a far harder time being able to deal with those type of decks.
Yeah, so Ian beating Control in top 4, I'm pretty sure was a thrown game on accident. So I don't think that counts. It
was a good matchup for Ian though.
I had a thought process, and now I don't know where it went. The Zorotoad. Okay, so my stance on Control, I'm not gonna do too much. I love the Sander point. I think that's really good. I think Control should exploit weaknesses in the format, like you guys said. So definitely agree with that. I'm no stranger to playing Control decks, but the thing that we played in Collinsville should never ever be legal again or anything like it.
Oh yeah.
Thank God. And then the Zorotoad. I remember talking or trying the Zorotoad deck after Lusamine, and I felt that Lusamine helped it so much. Like, it just didn't do enough damage or anything without the Lusamine, and that's when people started playing like Zorotoad lasers and testing stuff like that to increase the damage. And it was the Lusamine that allowed you to lock plus use a fossil and then use the broken supporters from Lusamine, because you couldn't break lock go into Guru, then you would just be a completely different deck. So I don't kind of want to end on that. I'm gonna give Azul the last say, but that'll be that for that topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be careful with stuff like Surge, and that's why they initially just banned Jesse James and Let Loose like immediately, right? When they were was about to become expanded only, or when Jesse James didn't even make its way into expanded ever, right? It was never allowed.
Oh yeah, no, I remember got banned right away.
I think Surge would be because you'd have to ban so many other cards around Surge, or you could just ban Surge, right? Like, because you have to ban. I mean, they did ban Miss Magus, but like stuff like Magneton would have to go. Anything that kind of gives up prize cards would have to go. They got rid of Jesse James immediately because that with anything that gives up prize cards would be too good. Because there's so much access to your deck and how aggressive you can be with your deck and expand it. So either you ban something like Surge, or you ban a bunch of cards around Surge. Because they just know it's too powerful, and it probably would be, right? And we could sit through 2 regionals. They could be like, all right, we're not going to ban it. And then we could sit through 2 regionals where some deck dominates both regionals. And I think even Chip mentioned this about Trevnor. He thought Trevnor would get banned, or something from Trevnor would get banned after Charlotte. And I think I agree. Like, they would have let Trevnor go another event for sure. It would have been, 7 out of the top 8, and then they would have banned it. Banned Trevnor, banned Melodic, whatever, right? So, yeah, it definitely would just be a problem. It's like, it's too powerful with how much access you have in expanded cards like Surge, or even like any kind of like stuff like Let Loose, stuff like Jesse James. That's why they are banned.
100%.
Oh yeah, Let Loose was. Oh my goodness, I have such bad flashbacks of Let Loose was power plant. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So Alex, thanks as always for coming on. Glad to have you back on. We're gonna go ahead and to move into one of your favorite people. So thanks for coming on as always, my guy.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks, Alex.
Have a good one, my guy.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so our next caller is a new person on the show. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Chip, and I'm calling from North Carolina. I just want to say, fan of the podcast. I love seeing what you guys do over here, and I love seeing people put out good Pokemon content.
Thank you, Chip. It means a ton. What is your hot topic for today? I think just from seeing the text channel, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, so for anyone who might not be aware, Tristan Lackey, who was the top ranked player in North America and also in the world coming out of the Players' Cup qualifiers, posted today on Twitter that he was disqualified for the tournament. And it's a really big, long post. I'm just going to try to explain it briefly to give context to anyone who might not be totally aware, but you should definitely go read his tweet longer on his Twitter. But effectively, he made his PTCGO account with his dad in 2011 when it came out, and he was like 13 years old, I think is what his post said. So, he's a young kid, makes an account with his dad. It's the account that they've always used together. Then there's never been a ranked ladder, no big issues, anything like that. But then now we have these Players' Cup tournaments. He participates in it. He gets first place and then goes to register. Oh, this PTCGO account is connected to his dad's Pop ID, not his Pop ID. And so because of that, the account he the account he played on was not the account that is linked to his Pop ID. He is not going to be able to play in the Players' Cup tournament. So I just kind of wanted to get your guys' opinions on the matter. It's definitely kind of a weird situation. I mean, sharing accounts is against TOS technically, but whenever it's a kid's game, there's going to be a lot of situations like this where kids are sharing accounts with their parents, and then as they age up, continue to play the game. We'll see things like this happening. So just want to get your guys' thoughts and opinions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Azul, or Chip, for the topic. I'm going to go ahead and start with Azul.
I think it's kind of ridiculous that he isn't able to play. Like, it's a very unique, not a unique situation, but it's like a unique, like, when he comes to them with it, it seems pretty straightforward that, like, there's no malicious intent or anything like that at all. He's the player, right? And he's, like, done well in real life events. Like, it's not like, anyone could play on anyone's account, right? That's like another thing. It's like, so anyone could be like cheating or playing with their friends while they play their games, but like that, none of that's regulated, right? And it's like, I think it's very straightforward, like that. He's played his games, and it's just kind of like unfortunate that it's the account is connected that way, but it seems like it should be straightforward enough where they should be able to be like, okay, they don't want to let anyone, but this should be a pretty, like, I don't know, obvious scenario that it can be very like fixed by and just allow him to play in the Players' Cup. Like, I don't think it should be that big of a deal. I don't think. I don't know if you'd be able to find anyone who says he shouldn't be able to play in the Players' Cup besides maybe someone who is behind the rules on from Pokemon. But I think he should definitely be allowed to play. I think it's ridiculous if he's not allowed to play, and I hope he is allowed to play in the Players' Cup.
Yeah, obviously it's something that could probably be easily avoided by both player and TPCI. Well, maybe not avoided by TPCI, but it's something that can be avoided. Except in this scenario, when it's the account again, it's his dad's. It's like it just feels, again, so silly to kind of not just allow it. Like, this is where they draw the line in the sand is really kind of, I guess, odd. Obviously, they have to try and prevent, I guess, account sharing as best they can. But I think it more speaks to the communication because, we'll see how it gets resolved. But there's always been a little bit of poor communication when it comes to this and other rules surrounding Players' Cup, like the first Players' Cup in general. Even just other things, they're always a little bit slow on communication. Like, I know for myself, I still don't have my actual, like, the TCGO account I use linked to my Pop ID because they just never got back to me by email. And so, if I want to play, I have to use the account with, like, no cards, and it's just like a bunch of things. It feels like a lot of these things they say that they can fix, but then, I guess don't even end up following up. So I think, again, it mainly comes down to communication. Sad for Tristan. I hope it does get resolved.
Yeah, I read Tristan's post before hopping on the cast. It kind of just showed up on my feed when I was making the post for announcing tonight's episode. It's really sad. it's devastating that it happened. I remember seeing Tristan's post about being number one, and it was a really cool thing to see that Tristan had gone so far, became first seed, and I think Henry and Azul hit on the top of the head. The disconnect between Pokemon Company, TPCI, and the players is just not there, or it's just there. Like, there is nothing. It doesn't seem like there's been a huge effort to reach out. It seemed like the players podcast that they were doing for a while, it could have been interesting, but then it ended up just being like recapping the Players Cup for the week for all the games. So I mean, it sucks. I think that we need some more communication on stuff like this. I know that I follow the Fortnite community a little bit. I know Good Meme, but they recently made the effort to take their competitive side super seriously, and like their Twitter is now run by, I don't know, whatever. They're basically just taking an active role in communicating with the community, and I think that would be something amazing if we could see that happen for Pokemon. Feel like we get some of our stuff heard, and then in terms of Tristan, find a resolve to something that's as sad as that. I don't think there was any malintent, so I definitely hope it gets resolved for Tristan. Chip, what are your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely just think it's really unfortunate, and I just think that Pokemon really should communicate better and do better in these situations. If you look at his post as well, he has like screenshots of his communication with the Pokemon Company and stuff, and it all just seems like very bot responses. And if it is people, it's very like cut and paste, just going by the book kind of responses like, have you done this to check this pop ID and logged into this email and all this stuff? And I mean, especially like there's a lot on the line for this tournament as well. Like top four is getting, a, something that's worth, $3,000 to $5,000 in paid travel to an international championship at some point. Like that's a lot on the line. And I think a lot of the issue also comes back to the fact that PTCGO was never meant to be like a competitive client. Right. It was just kind of like a for fun thing that I think was like almost like an extension of Pokemon League, to be honest. And now they're trying to, push the Players Cups. I think the Players Cups are great. I love the fact that like we get to compete for something like this at home. It's something that we've wanted for a long time, but they're just having to like work backwards to make it happen, and that's where we're running into like who knows on the back end how difficult it truly is to like fix a pop ID that's been registered to one PTCGO account and moving it to another account. Like maybe it is something that's really difficult because of how it was coded, 10 years ago. But I don't know. I just think like, and like the worst part of it all too, I think like Tristan got disqualified not by Pokemon but by Arcanine Labs. Like that's the response came from them was like, you're not going to be able to play in this tournament because it's like the wrong pop ID. It doesn't work. And it's like how it is at minimum, right? Like it feels like Pokemon should have communicated that to him. But realistically, what should have happened is they should have worked through it with him, either allowed him to play on the account that is linked to his pop ID, link this account to his pop ID. Like something should have happened. A resolution should have been found. And, with the tournament coming up this weekend, and the pace at which Pokemon moves, I'm not sure a resolution is going to be reached.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, like I said earlier, I think it's really sad, and I hope that stuff gets better for him. While we're on this topic, though, with PCGO, Azul, one of the biggest advocates, or, well, not advocates, but players of the PCGO client itself, what are some things, I know that people have talked about ranked ladders, they've talked about, XYZ. What do you think is the correct move from Pokemon, like, going forward? In like, a ideal situation for the community, what do you want to see happen with a PTCGO remake or PTCGO itself?
I mean, like ideally, and the only thing that's going to keep it all around online, they have to come out with a new client. I think that's the only thing or like got to get a bigger new team behind what is running PTCGO, because I mean, it just won't last in its current state. Like, and it like sucks when you like play Hearthstone or you play MTG Arena and you see how much better it is. And there's so many little things, and they've done like some of them, but they don't do enough quickly enough. Even just like folders for there's so many things. There's so many things I could come up with that would be great to have on PTCGO, but I think a new client is like ideally just a new client. It just would have to be it. And I mean, I have no idea. I'd love it if they would just like tell us if they like are thinking about it or if it's like a definite no. That'd be great to know, but I doubt we'll ever hear anything until something actually comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chip, obviously, you yourself are another big streamer. Do you have any thoughts on that topic?
I mean, I think that for the online game to last, like at minimum, PTCGO needs to add a ranked ladder. Like I noticed this too whenever I've like streamed the game and stuff. Like, it's really difficult. I think like good content is really important for a game to thrive. Like, you need to have good content creators and people, promoting your game effectively. And right now, there's like only a handful of people that are really able to do it effectively in high numbers that are going to be averaging that few hundred viewers. I've streamed not the most consistently but pretty on and off for the last few years. And like I've gone through waves. Like during the Players Cup, my average numbers were great. Like I actually completed my path to partner during the first Players Cup because people were interested in watching the content. They were interested in seeing how my tournaments went, seeing how deep I could go, seeing how many, watching, like refreshing the thing to climb up the ladder on the leaderboards on the internet and all that. So I completed the path to partner, all that stuff. I apply for partner. My Players Cup run ends. My stream numbers start to drop, and I don't get Twitch partner because I don't have that threshold of 75 viewers anymore because people are less interested in, sticking around for something. I think something like a ranked ladder would just really, it's just great for the game. People are more interested in it. So, I mean, I agree. I'm with Azul as well. Like, I would be totally down for just a re-released, like brand new PTCGO. They market it like a new game. Yeah, I mean, and I think it has potential to be like one of the top games, that is played like on Twitch, on YouTube, whatever. Like, I would like it's the type of thing like I would not be surprised to like just see people playing it on their phone out and about. Like if they like it has that potential because it's the biggest media franchise in the world, but it's just not something that I think is realistic or is likely to happen.
Absolutely. I want to give Henry a chance to speak on that, but what you just said, Chip, is incredible. Like, I talked about this with Azul in a Discord call like way a while ago, but with the boom in Pokemon right now that's been happening, I think that you're like spot on. Remarketing the game, pushing a new client could be huge for not only the game, the community, everything about it. And yeah, I think that they could take some different actions to help that. Henry, your thoughts?
Yeah, like they could push it so much. Like look at the boom at the moment, like the prices of cards, like actual like huge content creators getting into Pokemon. Not so much playing, but even just opening the cards is like good publicity, and they really should take advantage of it. And hopefully, we can reap some of the rewards rather than just, I guess, pure merchandise sales. But I think obviously we need updated client. Ranked ladder would give something like can work through it. Ranked ladder is such like a I don't know if it's strictly like a one of those like dopamine loops, but it's like you actually have like you're playing the game and you're not just doing it to play the game. You're doing it because you like have a goal or you have like you want to reach a certain rank or you win, and it creates like meaning, I guess, to playing the game beyond just doing it. And that also like really would remedy the kind of stale formats that we have, because even though you like your stale format, you might not have a deck you can build, you might be kind of bored of it, you still have a goal and you still have something you want to do. And I think that would, as you said, really fix the kind of lull in viewership and interest that the game kind of goes through.
100%. Yeah, all amazing facts. I would hope that a representative or someone that has a place of power, sees this part if they watch stuff like this, because I feel like they could probably learn a lot from this section. But Chip, thank you. Amazing topic, amazing branch off topic. Thank you so much for coming on. And if you guys aren't already, go give a follow to Trainer Chip on everything. Great guy.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
See you, Chip.
Thanks, Chip.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get into our next caller. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Hey guys, my name's Evan. I'm calling from Chilliwack, British Columbia, Canada, and a bit of a lighthearted topic here. With the new Vivid Voltage set coming out in the next week or so, what are your guys' favorite amazing rares in this set? And in terms of playability and whatnot, do you think that perhaps like Raikou or Jirachi will see a lot of play in this upcoming format?
Same order.
Oh yeah. I mean, Jirachi seems super cool. Definitely gonna give it a shot. It gives us the thing that Jirachi's been missing, which is a constant pivot through U-turn board on the Amazing Rare Jirachi. Not quite as. I mean, in situations where you want an energy instead of a trainer card, I mean, it's better than Stellar Wish, I guess, right? So, I mean, it'd be cool to see. It kind of feels underwhelming now that like I mentioned earlier, the Celebi and the Manaphy, I think it is. I was super excited for those because they do the same thing, but they see 5 and 6 cards off the top of your deck, and you can get Pokemon and energy. But Jirachi for sure. I actually just want to kind of try and make the Yveltal work because it just KOs something, which is it does cost 5 energy, but I want to give the Yveltal a shot for sure because if you can just like close out the game and just be like, all right, Yveltal, somehow get 5 energy on it. I'm not sure how we're gonna do it yet, but knock out a VMAX or something, then the game's just over. Or even twice on 2 VMAXs or whatever could be pretty cool for sure.
Yeah, I like the evil tile. For the attack, it's cool. I think it's the coolest of the attacks. Jirachi is obviously the most playable from the get-go, but I don't even know if that'll see that much play. I mean, they all look amazing. Like outside of a gameplay point, they look really good. Like I think they all have texture on the cards, right? And the art is fantastic. Like the Rayquaza just like coming out of some rainbow cloud is very cool, kind of screaming towards you. We had Isaiah on the podcast last week insisting it was good. But I think he read the card a little bit wrong. So yeah, in expanded actually, Rayquaza could see play with Ho-Oh and Ninja Boy potentially. You flip heads with Ho-Oh, you Ninja Boy, you attach an energy, you're doing 320. It's not bad. It's probably one of the more playable versions of the attacks. Yeah, other than that, I don't think they're totally playable, but they're really cool, and Jirachi may sneak into a couple of decks as a pivot.
Yeah, same stuff with the other guys. I do like the Yveltal quite a bit. In a hypothetical world, if like a triple rainbow or support for them got printed where they all become playable suddenly, I think the Raikou is pretty cool. Shaman getting banned kind of hurts it in expanded for sure. I think the Raikou is definitely better in expanded than it is in standard. I think it's Zacian that does like 250 or something to a VMAX, which assuming we got support for it, that's really good one prizer to just have. You can play 4 of them, so potentially shifting back into a single prize like attacker. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, the limiting factor that we've touched on is definitely the attack costs. Would not mind having all of them PSA 10s and graded and just like on display. I think that'd be pretty sick. They all look really cool. So thanks, Evan, for coming on. Thanks for the topic, and we're gonna go ahead and move into some more discussion.
All right, thanks so much, you guys.
You have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Easy.
Whoops, did not mean to cut him off there on accident. So we're coming to the end of the show. We're going to try and go the next 12 minutes, get to that hour 30 mark. If anyone in the chat has any questions that they either want to post in chat that you don't have to come into the live call or come into the live call, feel free to do so. We'll get you in priority if you come into the live call, but there's a question in the chat. Would love to hear your opinions on online events don't mean as much as IRL events, less legitimate. Okay, so then... Yeah, start with Azul, go backwards.
It's like a weird one. I mean, obviously, like the weeklies are like smaller, right? But once you get into like the invitationals and the Players Cup, like what are we comparing them to? Because if you take like the Players Cup compared to, and I'm super glad that it was won in the way it was with the was it Burris and Miller?
Yeah.
Winning the way they did with the deck that they did because like that kind of stuff like was like people going super try hard coming with a super cool deck and the way it worked in the meta that they expected and then working so people do at real life events too. When you get to those level events, like they're just as big and just as competitive, if not more, especially than like local regional events, and people make a big deal when someone wins, a regional in general, and especially in the current era. These events are bigger, like because of the international competition of them, they're bigger than almost on a regional scale event. And obviously, like the weeklies are like they're not quite on the same level, right? But they're just way smaller events, right? And I think one of the main things that people kind of drive to is that with this is like not all the best players in the world play, right? But the people who are taking these events seriously now and playing in them constantly are going to be some of the better players when real life events do come back. They will be the better players. And I'm sure, everyone else who was, in the top 16s and top 22s and all that stuff are still going to be great players, but there's going to be a higher level of competition for sure. Cause their skill's not going anywhere, I don't think, right? They might be a little rusty when they come back, but then there's all these other players who have been playing, multiple weeklies every week until, the real life tournaments come back and they're going to be, that much sharper, that much better. So don't mean as much. It depends on which online events I think you're talking about. I think the Players Cups, even in stuff like the Limitless events were huge. So many players playing in them internationally. It was just kind of ridiculous how many people played in those things. That's winning that thing is on the same level in my opinion as easily as like a regional win or anything like that. Like it's even if not even more so. Just like the amount of people who played in those, the amount you had to do to qualify, and then the international. For me, the biggest thing is the international play because that usually only happens at internationals or worlds. But no one discredits someone for winning a regional, right? And that's only locally to your region. But these things, everyone from all over the world are playing in these things in these bigger events. So, yeah, there's no, they're hard to win. And yeah, definitely tons of credit due to anyone who does win these bigger invitational or whatever Players Cup 1, Players Cup 7, whatever events for sure.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you mean, like less legitimate. So do you mean as like, an achievement as information based on the meta? Like, I think obviously the meta that we have in this kind of online era isn't the same meta we'd have in an IRL era. I think that's pretty widely agreed upon. So they may be less legitimate in terms of like determining like the true meta, but also it doesn't really matter what the true meta is because a meta is whatever people play. So still the same thing. In terms of like accomplishment wise, I mean, I think it I think it's all like pretty much touched on most things. The weekly ones are pretty good. It just depends on, I guess, how serious it is, what the stakes are, because that that I guess determines legitimacy. Because how hard are people going to try for this event? Like, are they going to play the best deck they can? Are they going to play their best? Are they kind of putting everything on the line? That kind of thing. Like, the only thing that makes it less legitimate or less of an achievement sometimes is the fact that people have nothing on the line, so they don't really have an incentive to try that hard on a lot of these things. But in terms of the actual huge online tournaments, like the Limitless qualifiers, Players Cup, things like that, people are going to try pretty hard, and I don't think it really makes it any less of an accomplishment overall. Yeah.
I definitely don't think that some of the smaller online events are very prestigious. So I wouldn't. I would try not to like. I would try not to. How do I say this? Yeah, I'm not gonna say that. I think the way I see some of these smaller online events is kind of what Azul said. In my eyes, it's like testing. So if you're winning these events, you're seeing success. It's like good testing, and like Azul mentioned as well, you're doing these things multiple times a week. So, I mean, there was a point in time where Hexters was 3 times a week. If you play every Hexter, you're testing these tournament, like basically tournament level events every week, 3 times a week. And then, there's several other events than just Hexters. You have Azul's events, you have the PokeX events, you have XYZ, shout out to everyone running events. But you have so many events. And I feel like the people that are like taking advantage of grinding now and learning some of these things are like skills that they're starting to recognize now when the game comes back. 100% agree with what Azul said. Will become some of the best players. And I know from personal experience, I have not been playing this game like nearly as much as I used to, if at all. I don't play a whole lot outside of like the Players Cup and the POG Championships, and I feel washed. Like I watch my friends play, and I'm just like, holy, how did I just go from, I was pretty good at top 8ing events, and now I'm just like, I'm really washed. And it's been a good few months since I've played, so I definitely feel the rust is on. And like, if I return to the game playing, I'm kind of scared. Like, I don't think I'm in the position that I was before the whole online thing happened. I definitely feel washed. And I'm not like on top of stuff. So I 100% agree with Azul, and for myself personally, hopefully I can break that rust, break the mold. But
yeah. I will also touch on quickly. I think also with the tournaments being best of one does slightly, I guess, reduce credibility of results and things like that, because best of one is just more increased variance. Obviously, naturally, best of 3 results are going to be a little bit more weighted towards the better players. So I think obviously that can also play into factor. But again, in these Players Cup things, they're all best of 3, so completely agree that those are just as prestigious.
I would want to mention. I would also just say, like, don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You should be wanting to continuously play Pokemon for the love of the game. Don't let anyone talk you down, like, from what wins you might pick up in this online era. of Pokemon and just like have fun with it and yeah, just keep doing you.
All accomplishments are accomplishments. It doesn't matter how big or small. Winning my first league challenge felt just as good as my first top 8. Any accomplishment is an accomplishment. Like Azul is 100% correct. I want to touch on Chip's topic that he put in chat, and then we're going to try and drag in one more caller. I think this was pretty interesting. Chip says, earlier you talked about players whose play surprised you how good they were. On the other side of the coin, who are some good players who have made some really bad plays versus you that you had to question it, were surprised by? I'm going to yoink the spotlight real quick. I am the worst player that I've ever played against. I make so many mistakes that are just like so dumb when I play on stream. So I am by far the worst player I have ever played against. Go ahead, Azul.
I feel like they stand out a little bit more to me, but I'm like trying to think of I still can't like come up with like a specific person or anything, or specific situation. I mean, I make a lot of mistakes myself, but you see all your own mistakes, and that's what you want to be able to see your mistakes. That's like the biggest thing is being able to see your mistakes. So everyone should be the worst player they've ever seen play for sure. Should be yourself. But can't think of anyone like super well known where they just did something. I was like, all right, I guess, yeah, sure, all right, whatever, man. And then they just lose the game because of it. Nothing off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's happened many times.
I think the only one, there's been like times I was playing, I was in top 8 of Worlds, and my opponent, Kaiwan, I think, trying a different strategy, he went like full Raichu early against Mewtwo instead of trying to full blitz, and I kind of just killed it, and the game was over. I didn't like that approach, but I guess you can pardon it a little bit because it's a new kind of matchup. But other than that, I don't think I've. I mean, as Azul and Will said, like I've done so many silly things in my time that I don't think you can really talk too much shit about your opponents at that point. Like everyone's made more mistakes than they've spotted. So I think that's the main thing. Like, yeah, I think there's not too much else.
In addition to what Azul said, noticing your mistakes is probably one of the best skills you can learn. I think we talked about this when K-Tron was on the cast, and if you're able to identify your mistakes, you can learn so much from them, and then like it's unlikely you make that mistake again. So I know that losing to Jimmy on a deck out just made me realize deck out plays way more. Like, I'm actively looking for deck out plays. How can I boss stall my opponent or whatever? So yeah, I definitely feel like if you can learn how to make, like, stop saying you got unlucky for the most part. I mean, it does happen, but if you can stop doing that and start to like learn from what you're doing wrong, or maybe like plan out your turns a little bit better, you'll learn so much. And I think that's definitely one of the best takeaways from that topic. We're gonna go ahead and go into the last caller here, and then we're gonna wrap up the cast. Another interesting topic. We're gonna go ahead and drag him in. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Jacob. I'm from Austria in Europe, and it's very early for me, so.
No problem. Welcome. What is your topic for today?
My topic is why it's ridiculous that seniors would have aged up this season but aren't allowed to play in the Players' Cup.
Okay, so it's ridiculous that seniors that aged up this past year aren't able to play in Players' Cup as well?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes further than that. So as far as I know, the only reason seniors can't play in Players' Cup is because there's like a just like general law age restriction of, you have to be 13 plus or over 13 or over, right? Anyone under 13 can't participate. Like the one that I heard specifically was you you're not allowed to be on Discord unless you are 13 or older, right? And then it's okay if that's the reason Pokemon's like, okay, we use Discord to run these events, we can't let people younger than 13 play in our events. But that means some of those people are in the seniors division. It's like, okay, well, we can't let anyone in the seniors division play. To me, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't like your event should become 13 plus. That's what the Players' Cup should be. It should be people who are 13 and older. It shouldn't be the whole of the seniors division. We could be here for a year or more doing these online events. Why are we gonna restrict players who we don't have to restrict from being able to play in the events, because parents of other seniors are going to get mad. I don't even think other seniors would get mad. I think the biggest thing would be parents might get mad, because there's the whole thing, if my kid can't do it, your kid can't do it kind of thing. And someone brought that up in my chat when I talked about this on my stream a little while back. It was like, well, then my kid can't play. Was basically the argument against it. But that whole thing is like ridiculous. Another one brought up an argument of, well, what if the parents don't want their kids, interacting with strangers on the internet? Well, maybe they should do some parenting and decide they don't want their kid playing in this event, right? So I think it's just ridiculous that not just seniors who would have aged up, but anyone who is 13 or older cannot play in the Players' Cup. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it really makes too much sense outside of their age legality. I don't think there's much reason for it. I don't have a strong opinion that we shouldn't allow any seniors in the Players' Cup because, I mean, maybe we shouldn't because they'll just beat us all. But I think it's totally fine that we could just let people in. I think it's just an unfortunate thing that's kind of happened, at least with the ones that are about to age up, because they're just kind of blanket ruling it that no seniors. But then correct me if I'm wrong, they extended the age up period of seniors this year because of the whole COVID thing and the season hiatus. And so it's kind of just an unfortunate collateral damage. I might be wrong on that, but I mean, yeah, there's no reason.
I think it sucks that they're limiting seniors because I feel like not a lot, because obviously Masters is the biggest division, but I feel like that kind of hurts the future of the game, especially if they're not letting seniors that would become Masters play, because while we're in this downtime, you want to keep the younger groups engaged. And obviously legality, I get that. But I started when I was, I think 13, 13, I think. So I was playing back then. I would want to play in this. Azul started when he was a lot younger. He would also want to play in this. Henry, I think you were around 13, maybe a little older.
Yeah, 14.
But I feel like you want to encourage the younger groups to play, going around the legality of it all. But yeah, I definitely think it sucks, and I think that they should work on that with the list of everything else that they should work on.
Yeah, and also I think, just a side note, I feel like it's probably a pretty easy fix for them. Surely they could just I mean, maybe it's too difficult with an online thing, but if they just somehow request parental permission, I feel like that'd be something that they could just do. If they have a parent sign off, a field trip kind of permission slip, then it should be fine, right? Or the parents give permission, say that they're monitoring them or whatever, helping them out. I don't know. I feel like that's one way they can get around it, but hopefully we see this kind of go away or get resolved.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Jake and Nader. Great topic, and hopefully you get to play an event soon.
Thank you. I'm qualified.
Have a good one.
Thanks, man.
All right, so before we wrap up the show, just want to go back to Chip's question real quick. The worst player I've ever seen make a misplay, busted Katron. He did something very similar to me in a top 8 of his own regionals. Pretty bad throw. Probably the worst player that's not myself I've ever seen. And yeah, that guy, we had him on the cast. Probably never again. That guy sucks. But thank you guys. Go ahead, Azul. You got it.
I should call it Katron as well, bro. I mean, I'm not Grant Manley, but just to speak for Grant, yeah, worst player ever, bro, for sure, bro. Insane.
Oh God, Henry, you want to add?
We need to get Grant on here. I want to hear his opinions.
Bro, stop leaking the guest, bro. Stop leaking the guest. All right, so guys, that's gonna be it for the show. We had an amazing one. I want to say a huge thank you to Azul for coming on. Before we do post closings and stuff, I want to give the floor to Azul. You guys all probably already know him, but if you don't, Azul, where can people find you? The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. You can find me Azul GG, Twitch, YouTube, Azul_GG on Twitter, I believe. I think that's where I still have an underscore over there, unfortunately. Yeah, check me out there. I stream, I make YouTube videos. That's it. That's all I got. Appreciate it.
All right, Henry, over to you.
Yeah, nothing from me. You guys know who I am. Go check out Azul. He makes some cool videos.
So then I have to apologize because I put Azul's Twitter handle wrong on the screen, that means. So if you want to follow Azul on Twitter, Azul_GG is the place to find him. Guys, an excellent episode, excellent show, excellent cast. Thank you to everyone that's here live on Twitch. Thank you for the follows, the host, everything like that. Welcome to everyone in the Discord. We run this show every week. Probably going to do 4 more episodes, call this a season, take a week break, continue from there. I need to talk to Henry about that, but I loved it. This was a great show. We got a ton of cool information on this cast. Lots of cool takes. Maybe some Pokemon representatives see this, take some action. We'd love to see it. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next week for another episode of the PTCG Hotline. Have a good one.